I always thought I had it all. A beautiful home in Beacon Hill, a thriving career as an architect, and Claire, my wife of 8 years. She was the kind of woman who could light up any room just by walking into it. People envied us, or so they said. But lately, something felt off. It wasn't one big thing. It was 1,000 tiny cracks. Like how she glanced at her phone during dinner, and then quickly silenced it when I asked who was texting her. Or how she started coming home later and later, always with some excuse about work. That night, as I sat on the couch grading blueprints for a client's project, I heard her heels click against the hardwood floor. Late again, I asked without looking up. "Yeah," she replied, her voice clipped. Victor wanted to go over the Q4 campaign. Victor, her boss. Just hearing his name made my stomach churn. He was everything I wasn't, charismatic, loud, and dripping with money. And lately, he seemed to be everywhere in our lives. Still, I told myself I was being paranoid. After all, Claire loved me, didn't she? The next morning, I woke up before Claire and decided to make coffee. As I reached for my laptop on the kitchen counter, I noticed hers sitting there, open but locked. Normally, this wouldn't have caught my attention, but something compelled me to check it anyway. Maybe it was the way she'd been acting, or maybe it was a gnawing feeling that I couldn't shake. When I clicked on her laptop, it prompted for a password. I hesitated for a moment, guilt creeping in, but curiosity got the better of me. I tried her birthday. It worked. Scrolling through her emails, I found nothing unusual at first. Then, buried among dozens of mundane work messages, I saw it. An email from Victor. The subject line read, "Tonight was unforgettable." My heart sank. I opened the email, my hands trembling. Inside, there were no explicit details, just vague hints about meeting again soon. My mind raced. Was this what I thought it was? No, I couldn't jump to conclusions. Not yet. But deep down, I already knew. Something was very, very wrong. That evening, I waited until Claire came home. She looked tired, her blonde hair pulled back into a messy bun, her blazer slung over her shoulder. For a second, I almost lost my nerve. How do you accuse someone you love of betrayal? "Claire," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk." She froze mid-step, her eyes narrowing. "What's wrong?" I slid her laptop across the table. "Care to explain this?" Her face went pale as she read the email. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then, finally, she whispered, "Ethan, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" I snapped, my voice rising. "That you're sleeping with your boss? That our marriage means nothing to you anymore." Tears welled up her eyes. "It's not like that," she insisted. "Things between us haven't been right for a while now. You've been so distant, buried in your work. I didn't mean for it to happen." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. So it was true. My wife, the person I trusted most in this world, had betrayed me. For days after that conversation, I couldn't think straight. Every time I looked at Claire, I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. Part of me wanted to pack my bags and leave, start fresh somewhere else. But another part, the darker part, wanted revenge. I hired a private investigator named Mark, a grizzled guy with a cigarette perpetually dangling from his lips. "Find out everything you can about Claire and Victor," I told him. "I want proof." A week later, Mark called me into his office. On his desk were photos of Claire and Victor entering a hotel in Manhattan. They weren't holding hands, but the way they looked at each other said enough. My blood boiled as I stared at those images. That night, I poured myself a glass of whiskey and stared out the window at the Boston skyline. Revenge wouldn't bring Claire back to me, but it would give me control, and that's exactly what I needed. The first step in my plan involved Victor's new office building, a massive skyscraper he was developing in downtown Boston. As an architect, I knew the ins and outs of construction projects better than anyone. So I subtly altered the blueprints, introducing minor structural flaws that would only become apparent once construction began. At first, no one noticed. But weeks later, reports of delays and cost overruns started surfacing. Victor grew increasingly frustrated, blaming everyone around him. Watching him squirm gave me a sick sense of satisfaction. Meanwhile, I began planting seeds of doubt in Claire's mind. Using a burner phone, I sent an anonymous text to her. Does Victor really care about you? Or is he just using you? At first, she ignored them, but I could tell they were getting under her skin. One evening, Claire confronted me. Have you been sending me these texts? She demanded, holding up her phone. No, I lied, keeping my expression blank. Why would I do that? She frowned, clearly unsure whether to believe me. Someone knows about us, she said quietly. About Victor and me. Well, maybe you should have thought about that before you cheated on me. I shot back, unable to hide my bitterness. To my surprise, she broke down crying. I hate myself for what I did, Ethan. But you don't understand what it's like working for someone like Victor. He makes you feel special, important. And I was lonely. Lonely. The word echoed in my head long after she left the room. Did she really feel that way? Or was she just trying to manipulate me? Either way, it didn't matter. My plan was already in motion, and there was no turning back now. As the weeks went by, I found myself consumed by my revenge plot. It wasn't just about hurting Victor anymore. It was about dismantling everything he stood for. His empire, his ego, his carefully crafted image of success. And Claire? She was collateral damage. In this war, I declared. I started small, feeding anonymous tips to local journalists about discrepancies in Victor's business dealings. At first, nothing came of it. But then one reporter bit. A scrappy investigative journalist named Rachel who had a reputation for taking down powerful men. I met her at a dimly lit coffee shop near South Station, wearing a hoodie and sitting in the corner like some shady informant from a spy movie. I can't guarantee anything, she said, flipping through the documents I had compiled. But if even half of this is true, it could blow up big time. That's all I'm asking, I replied, my voice low. By the end of the week, the first article hit the internet. Questions arise over Langston Enterprises' financial practices. Within hours, social media exploded with speculation. Victor's perfect facade was beginning to crack, and I couldn't help but smile as I watched him stumble under the weight of scrutiny. But revenge isn't a clean game. The deeper I got, the more tangled the web became. One night, as I scrolled through news articles about Victor's crumbling empire, I noticed something strange. A comment thread where people were speculating about who might be leaking the information. Someone mentioned my name. My stomach dropped. How had they connected me to this? Was I being careless? Paranoia set in, and for the first time, I questioned whether I was going too far. What if Victor figured out it was me? What if he retaliated? To distract myself, I decided to focus on Claire. Using a fake Instagram account I created months ago, I posted pictures of Victor with other women. Photos I'd photoshopped to look real. Then I tagged Claire in one of them. Within minutes, she called me, her voice trembling with rage. Did you do this? She demanded. Are you trying to destroy me too? No. I lied again, though guilt gnawed at me. Why would I bother? She hung up without another word, but I knew I'd struck a nerve. Doubt was eating away at her, and that was exactly what I wanted. Despite everything, there were moments when I wondered if I was a bad guy in this story. Late one night, after another round of sabotage, Claire knocked on my office door. Her eyes were red, her face pale. I don't know what to do anymore, she confessed, sinking into a chair. Victor won't stop calling me, but every time I see him, I feel sick. And now everyone thinks I'm part of whatever scandal is happening at work. For a brief moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. You brought this on yourself, I said coldly, though the words tasted bitter. I know, she whispered, but I never meant for any of this to happen. I don't even know what I thought. Her vulnerability caught me off guard. For years, we drifted apart, both of us too stubborn or too busy to fix what was broken. Maybe, if things had been different, none of this would have happened. But it was too late for regrets now. The tension between us reached a breaking point during a charity gala hosted by Victor's company. Claire begged me not to go, but I insisted. It was a perfect opportunity to confront him face to face. When I arrived, The room buzzed with whispers about Victor's troubles. He stood at the center of it all, looking as arrogant as ever in his tailored suit. When he spotted me, his smile faltered. "Ethan," he said, extending a hand. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't come for the free champagne." I shot back, shaking his hand firmly. "We need to talk." We stepped outside onto the balcony, the cool Boston air doing little to calm my nerves. "What's your problem?" Victor asked, his tone sharp. "You act like you own the world." "No," I replied, meeting his gaze, "but I know enough to bring yours crashing down." His smug expression faltered for a split second before he masked it with a laugh. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" I countered, pulling out my phone and showing him screenshots of internal emails I'd leaked. "This is just the beginning, Victor. Unless you want your entire life exposed, maybe you should rethink your priorities." He stared at me, stunned. For the first time, I saw fear in his eyes, and it felt good. Too good. The next morning, Victor's world started unraveling faster than I'd anticipated. Headlines screamed across every major news outlet. Langston Enterprises under investigation for fraudulent practices. Reporters camped outside his office building, and employees whispered nervously in the hallways. Claire called me in a panic. "What did you do?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "Victor's losing everything, his company, his reputation. And whose fault is that?" I snapped back, though guilt tugged at the edges of my conscience. "He made his choices, Claire, just like you did." She didn't respond, but I could hear her breathing heavily on the other end of the line. Finally, she said, "You're not the man I married, Ethan. You become someone I don't even recognize." Her words stung more than I cared to admit. Was she right? Had my thirst for revenge turned me into something ugly? But before I could dwell on it, my phone buzzed with notification. A new article had been published. This one included details about Victor's personal life, including accusations of harassment from former employees. The public was eating it up, and Victor's carefully constructed empire was crumbling faster than I'd imagined. A few days later, an envelope arrived in the mail. My heart sank as I opened it and saw the official divorce papers. Claire had hired a lawyer, and she wasn't pulling any punches. She wanted full custody of Max, our golden retriever, and half of everything we owned. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the papers, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. How had it come to this? 8 years of marriage reduced to legal jargon and signatures. Part of me wanted to fight her, to drag this out until she regretted ever crossing me, but another part just felt tired. That night, I took Max for a long walk along the Charles River. He trotted happily beside me, oblivious to the chaos swirling around us. As we stopped to watch the sunset, I realized how much I'd taken him and Claire for granted. We used to take these walks together, laughing about nothing and everything. Now, all we had left were lawyers and bitterness. Just when I thought I had the upper hand, Victor retaliated. A process server showed up at my office with a lawsuit alleging defamation and intentional infliction of emotional distress. According to complaint, Victor claimed I had orchestrated a smear campaign against him, costing him millions in damages. My lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Diane, assured me we had a strong defense. "We'll argue that everything you exposed was true," she said confidently. "But this is going to get messy." As if that wasn't bad enough, Victor began spreading rumors about me within the architectural community. Clients who had once praised my work suddenly backed out of projects, citing concerns about my professionalism. My career, the one thing I still had control over, was under threat. For the first time, doubt crept in. Had I gone too far? Was revenge worth losing everything I'd worked so hard to build? The trial was a media circus. Cameras flashed outside the courthouse as reporters shouted questions at both sides. Inside, the tension was palpable. Victor looked haggard, his usual confidence replaced by desperation. Claire sat in the gallery, her expression unreadable. When it was my turn to testify, I took a deep breath and faced the judge. "Your Honor," I began, "everything I revealed about Victor Langston was based on factual evidence. I didn't fabricate anything. I simply brought the truth to light." Diane presented damning documents proving Victor's unethical practices, including forged contracts and falsified financial records. The courtroom erupted in murmurs as the jury examined the evidence. But the real bombshell came during Victor's cross-examination. Under pressure, he admitted to coercing Claire into their affair, threatening to fire her if she refused. My stomach churned as I processed his words. So, Claire hadn't betrayed me entirely of her own volition. She'd been manipulated. By the time the verdict was delivered, Victor's reputation was in ruins. The judge ruled in my favor, dismissing his claims and ordering him to pay substantial damages. But instead of feeling triumphant, I felt hollow. Winning hadn't healed the wounds. It had only deepened them. After the trial, Claire asked to meet me at a quiet cafe near Fenway Park. She looked smaller somehow, her usual confidence replaced by vulnerability. "I owe you the truth," she said softly, "about everything." I nodded, bracing myself for what was coming. When Victor first approached me, I told him no. But then he started making things difficult at work, micromanaging me, criticizing my performance, threatening to let me go. I felt trapped, Ethan. I didn't know what else to do. Her voice broke, and tears streamed down her face. "I never stopped loving you. Not really, but I couldn't see a way out. And now I've lost everything because of it." For the first time in months, I saw her not as the woman who betrayed me, but as someone who'd been manipulated and broken. It didn't excuse what she'd done, but it humanized her in a way I hadn't allowed myself to consider before. That night, I lay awake replaying Claire's confession in my mind. Her words echoed alongside Victor's admission in court. Had I misjudged her? Or had I been so blinded by rage that I refused to see the bigger picture? Then, as dawn broke, I received an email from an anonymous sender. Attached was a video clip, a security camera feed showing Victor boarding a private jet bound for Europe. Below was a note: "Fake bankruptcy. New identity. Enjoy the mess you made." Victor hadn't lost everything after all. He'd orchestrated his escape, leaving behind a trail of destruction, including mine and Claire's lives. The revelation about Victor's escape left me reeling. All this time, I believed I was dismantling his empire, but he'd been 10 steps ahead. He didn't care about the wreckage he left behind. He never had. And now, Claire and I were stuck picking up the pieces of our shattered lives. A few days later, I called her. "We need to talk," I said simply. She agreed without hesitation, and we met at a small park near the river where we used to walk Max in happier times. I saw the video, I admitted, showing her my phone. Victor faked everything. He's gone. Claire's face paled. So all of this was for nothing? Not nothing, I replied, though bitterness tinged my voice. But maybe it wasn't worth it. For the first time in months, we talked honestly about our mistakes, our regrets, and the love we'd once shared. It wasn't easy. There were tears, accusations, and moments of silence heavy with unspoken pain. But by the end of our conversation, we agreed to try being friends. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. Meanwhile, whispers of Victor's disappearance spread like wildfire. Some speculated he'd fled to Monaco or Switzerland, living off hidden accounts. Others claimed he'd assumed a new identity and started fresh somewhere no one would recognize him. Whatever the truth, his betrayal haunted me. One evening, as I sifted through old files on my laptop, I stumbled upon something unexpected. A draft email from Claire to Victor, written months ago but never sent. In it, she begged him to leave her alone, pleading that she couldn't live with the guilt anymore. Reading those words hit me harder than I expected. For all her flaws, Claire had been entirely complicit in Victor's schemes. She'd been a victim, too. Just like me, the realization forced me to confront an uncomfortable truth. My revenge hadn't just hurt Victor. It had punished Claire for sins she hadn't fully committed. With Victor out of the picture and my marriage officially over, I decided it was time to focus on myself. I began taking on smaller, community-focused projects, designing affordable housing units, and renovating local schools. These weren't glamorous assignments, but they gave me a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. One day, while overseeing construction of a new playground, I ran into Rachel, the journalist who'd helped expose Victor. She smiled when she saw me. "Looks like you found your groove again," she remarked. "Something like that," I replied, chuckling. Turns out revenge doesn't pay nearly as well as building things that actually matter. Rachel laughed, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe I couldn't undo the past, but I could shape the future. Around the same time, Claire started volunteering at an animal shelter, a passion she'd always talked about but never pursued. One Saturday afternoon, she invited me to visit. As we walked through the kennels together, she seemed lighter, freer. "This place saved me," she confessed, kneeling to pet a scruffy terrier. It reminded me that even broken things could be loved again. Her words lingered in the air between us. I wanted to tell her how proud I was of her, how much she'd grown since the chaos of the past year. But instead, I simply smiled. As we left the shelter, she turned to me. "Thank you, Ethan, for letting me find my way back." "You did that yourself," I replied, and for the first time, I meant it. Weeks later, I received a letter postmarked from Zurich. Inside was a single sheet of paper, handwritten in Victor's unmistakable scrawl. "Ethan, congratulations on ruining my life. Or so you think. By the time you read this, I'll be long gone, living under a new name in a place where no one knows who I am. You may have destroyed my empire, but you'll never understand the cost of your obsession. Revenge is a hollow victory, my friend. Enjoy the ruins." His words stung, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. My quest for vengeance hadn't brought me peace. It had only deepened the emptiness inside me. Months passed, and life slowly returned to a semblance of normalcy. Claire and I continued meeting weekly for coffee, rebuilding our friendship one awkward conversation at a time. We never talked about reconciliation, not because we didn't care, but because we both knew it wasn't possible. Too much had happened. One crisp autumn morning, I took Max for a walk along the Charles River. The leaves were turning shades of gold and crimson, and the city buzzed with energy. As we paused to watch the sun rise over the skyline, I realized something profound. I was happy, not the fleeting happiness of winning a battle, but the quiet contentment of finding peace within myself. That winter, I attended a mutual friend's wedding. To my surprise, Claire was there too. Seeing her across the room stirred up memories I thought I'd buried, but instead of pain, I felt gratitude. During the reception, we ended up sitting together at a table overlooking the dance floor. "Do you ever wonder what might have been?" she asked quietly. "All the time," I admitted, "but wondering doesn't change anything. We can't rewrite the past, Claire. All we can do is move forward." She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You're right, and maybe moving forward is enough." The final scene unfolds as I walk Max along the riverbank one last time before heading home. The city stretches out before me, alive with possibility. My phone buzzes in my pocket. It's a message from Rachel, inviting me to collaborate on a documentary about corporate corruption. As I type out my response, I glance down at Max, wagging his tail happily beside me. Life isn't perfect, but it's good, better than it has been in years. And as the camera pans out, capturing the beauty of Boston's skyline bathed in golden light, I realize something important. Sometimes, losing everything you love forces you to rediscover what truly matters.